Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan. Welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. Joining me as always is my wonderful chat moderator and producer, my son Jason, also known on YouTube as Video Game Secrets. And if you want to ask us questions tonight, make sure and aim them at Jason or at Video Game Secrets or at Not Geeky Enough for a Picture t-shirt.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Honestly, you gotta come in the right uniform. You're getting docked tonight for uniform.
I completely forgot.
Yep. Yeah, we got a dress code here. We're going to send you home and make you change.
Dang it. It's a long way. I'm a long way from home.
You got to go all the way up the stairs.
Yeah, what the heck?
Anytime anybody says that, I'm always reminded of the toy store guy, Al's Toy Barn from Toy Story 2. I can't believe I have to drive all the way to work.
Yeah.
That joke is still funny. It's funny every time.
It is.
Do you know who that is? That is Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name is escaping me. I know what it is. I actually just listened to an interview with him a couple months ago that was really interesting.
Really?
Yeah, and that guy has aged spectacularly well.
Yeah.
Like, he's lost a lot of weight, but otherwise he looks about the same. Wayne Knight. There it is. Oh, you cheated. You had to look it up.
Yeah, I did.
Well done. He's like, oh, I'm not going to let the chat get to it before me.
Right.
How the heck is everybody this evening? It's time for our weekly 2-hour live talk show. We're going to talk to you about some news, geeky news of the last couple of weeks. And because we didn't meet last week, so the articles piled up a little bit. We're going to rapid fire as much of this as we can. Nothing like gigantic or earth-shattering, but
a bunch of little ones.
Yeah, a few announcements of things that I wanted to bring up, a couple of trailers we'll talk about, and if we don't get to everything, it's not going to be worth crying over spilled milk. There's nothing, gigantic that's a huge deal, but we were off last week working on the Superhero Rewind movie, and we got a big shoot done last weekend. So we actually took last night off from that because we got so much done over the weekend and played some Power Rangers with Freddy, which was really fun.
Yeah.
Heroes of the Grid. The new, not that anybody's going to care about this, but the new wave of that came out recently and we hadn't had a chance to play it yet. It's been in our possession for a couple of weeks and we finally got to try out some new characters. So I got to play with Green Ranger version 2. I hope he gets his own mini at some point. He's got a card, and it's better than either of the Tommy cards, so I really enjoyed playing with it. But he doesn't have his own model, and it's the Matt Cook Boom Power Rangers comics version, who's the new Green Ranger. So they actually have a team right now where there's green and white at the same time, which is fun.
That is cool.
And they've even done, have you seen it? Did I show you a picture of it? Because I know you're real behind the comics, but they've even done the Dragon Tiger Zord or Tiger Dragon Zord.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's lovely, and it looks exactly like you would want it to when you get those two Zords put together. But anyway, he's got his own outfit, because it's like the evil Green Ranger version, and with the kind of the gnarly helmet. And they don't have a mini for it yet in the board game. So I'm really hoping that they end up doing that.
Because, I mean, it's a different costume, so it's like...
Yeah. And they've done lots of variants and stuff, so hopefully that happens at some point. But you might be shocked to know that game from Renegade Studios, it's been going, it's in its 6th year now. And we're all in. We buy everything that comes out. And there are now over, I believe, 100 playable Rangers. Or if not, really, really close. And I've just gotten back into model painting. And I finally got into Army paints, which the Army painter set, which I showed off my birthday stream a week ago, I think. And anyway, it's like starting over, Jason. They apply so differently. I've been using hobby paints for so long, and now I'm doing it like an adult. But it's coming out pretty well. I've started painting Astronema, and she looks pretty cool. She's got bright blue hair.
You gotta get like 1,000 Astronemas and do just like different hair for each of them.
Because she's got all those different hair colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to get into the news here pretty soon. We want to talk about the Blade situation with MCU and try to guess at what we think they'll do and what we think they should do with that whole thing. Have you read up on that, Jason? Do you know the news with that? It's not exactly news, but there's been some talk.
Yeah,
there's been some talk about.
I've heard stuff here and there, but
what might happen.
I haven't
with
really
Blade.
looked into it, very thoroughly, but
we'll
know about it.
We'll read an article and then we'll pretend like we're really, really well researched. So that and some other news, and then we've got some fun segments for you like we do now. We turned the Captain Logan show into something of a variety show now. We've got a couple of extra segments we're doing. We're going to end off tonight with a surprise segment. I mean, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. It's no big deal, but a thing that we haven't done before that I won't announce yet. It will be silly and fun, I'm sure. And Jason is going to, I think, review something later, or at least just talk about something he saw recently.
I'm gonna do a little mini Jason review.
Cool. We'll do that after the break. And then for most of the second hour, after Jason's segment, we'll take questions from you guys on whatever geeky pop culture stuff you want to talk about. Feel free to get those in early, especially if you want to leave super chats. That guarantees that we'll talk about your topic sometime during the show. Can't promise it'll be right after you put it in, because we're going to answer questions about random things in the Ask Me Anything section toward the second half, or in the second half of the show. So again, as always, if you leave a super chat, and obviously we'll answer some regular questions as well, so don't be shy with those. And again, make sure to aim your questions at Jason at Video Game Secrets. But also, you can leave super chats or regular questions about whatever we're talking about with the news, and we'll try to answer those as we go along too. That's Jason's job. He's supposed to be compiling those.
Yeah.
And away we go.
I'm supposed to be.
He's supposed to be. We're gonna assume he's doing his job. He's still a little green. He's still a little new on the job, but he's doing well enough so far to not get replaced by John.
Oh boy, that's exciting.
No, Jason's doing a remarkable job. Well done, Jason.
Thank you.
John, you're great too. We love you, buddy. Anyway, let's I'm just being silly. We should have John on one of these though.
We should.
Has he been on a Captain Logan show yet?
Nope.
No. I
mean, he was on, the Rubber Downey, but I don't know if that was on.
Oh, that's true. That was like a special.
That was a Captain Logan
He hasn't
show.
been in one of the numbered ones though.
Right.
It's pretty much the same, except it was ostensibly shorter.
Yeah.
But
see, that means that I actually have experience because I have been on this show multiple times before I got the job. So
that's true. Okay, so before I flip over to this article, I just want to mention spoilers for Deadpool and the Wolverine for anybody that has not had a chance to see it yet. We won't be able to talk about some of the news tonight without spoiling some things that happen in that movie. So
we do usually start with a Patreon question, though.
Oh, you know what? Wait, I'm sorry. I don't even remember how the new
show works.
format works. I'm glad. See, that's the other part of Jason's job, is to keep me on track here. First, we're going to answer a Patreon question. Then we're going to talk about the news. Go ahead, Jason.
The news. Okay.
Thank you, man.
We got a question from Goof.
Jason actually just runs the show now. Go ahead,
I'm
sir.
running. Okay. We got a question from Goofster123. When Gunn and Feige inevitably get together for Marvel/DC crossovers, would you jump straight to Amalgam? Or would you do a versus movie first, or just some one-offs like the Superman Spider-Man comics? Also, which amalgamated character gets the first solo project? And also, do you cast new actors or pick one of the two, say Jackman and Bale for Dark Claw, for the amalgamations?
Yeah, I mean, great questions. And when you say inevitable, I have said recently it might be. It is seeming more and more plausible, and maybe even more and more likely, that this is how these big companies will eventually keep the train a-truckin'. That was a mixed metaphor. Keep the train running for these superhero projects. Also, just real quick, plug for Patreon. If you want to leave a question to be answered at the beginning of the show, and sometimes even in the middle of the show, just the $2 tier lets you do that on patreon.com/geekvolution. But anyway, the way I would do it, and let me also just say, I don't need that. I don't really want that. Having said that, it would make ridiculous amounts of money,
yes,
and if you're a studio head or an executive, you'd be crazy not to consider it. So I'm seeing two sides of that. Like, from the and this is the part I care more about myself, obviously. You don't want to get into a creative bankruptcy place where all we're doing is just the big novelty, crazy fanfic kinds of choices. Although I guess you could also make the argument that if it's good enough for comics, should it not be good enough for movies also? But the counter to that would be, well, they don't come out as much, and they are more throwaway, and they do make a lot more money. So if you set crazy precedents like we have with No Way Home, like we have now with Deadpool and Wolverine, and especially if you did something like Amalgam, all you're doing is inviting more crazy gimmicks and emphasizing less in the way of story. Now, if these... I'm getting in the weeds with this already. If these giant crazy event things make enough money to keep the thing going, and then you also let really good storytellers tell smaller and sometimes more intimate and thoughtful stories in between, and that's how those things get made, and they don't have to make as much money, and they don't have to be made for $200-400 million every time, I would be all for the giant event films.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you don't have to see them. You know,
right.
like if it facilitated those things. But anyway, so let me actually answer the question. If I was gonna do it, and again, I don't need that or want that, but I would not probably do Amalgam at all.
No.
I think that starts to get into really goofy looking fanfic territory, and if you did it, I wouldn't want a bunch of side projects. Like, that could get really horribly oversaturated. And also, you don't have a lot of great stuff to base it on in the first place. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Amalgam was very silly, and there's a novelty to it that's kind of fun, and I enjoyed seeing what the mashups were and what the goofy names were.
Right.
And it was the most hit-and-miss thing in the world creativity-wise, where, like, some of the choices, like Doctor Strange Fate, that's great.
Yeah. I still think...
But there were some really goofy, and just not even... Some of the goofy stuff was fun, like Lobo the Duck, but there were also a lot of just not even trying, kinds of things that we threw together.
I also don't know, like, why didn't they do Lady Deathstroke? Like, that's...
Lady Deathstroke is such a great idea. When you said that the other day, I was like, yeah, how did they not do that?
Yeah.
But anyway, so if you had to have Amalgam, I would say do it like Infinity War and Endgame, where the first part is DC versus Marvel and the second part is Amalgam, and then you're out. And if one of those characters, if you had like a big breakout character and you had to give somebody their own movie or their franchise, do it with one and let some of those other characters come in and out of it, but don't make 19. Right. You know, that's what I would say.
Or just like do like I know this probably wouldn't be good, but or just do like an Amalgam animated series.
Sure. Yeah, do it like What If, because even if it sucks, like, it's really easy to write off and not pay attention to. You're right. That should be like a What If spinoff if you did it. Mm-hmm. It's funny that we say that because, and I didn't put this in the news tonight, but it was recently announced that season 3 will be their last season. Ooh, shocker! Because, you know, it hasn't been good. People don't care. And people are really excited about that, including myself when it was first announced. And even with the initial trailers and stuff, like, I wasn't high on that animation, but if the writing had been better, I could have lived with it. I thought it was so cool that they even thought to do that. What If was one of my favorite things in Marvel.
And that was the big thing that I was excited about for Wave 4 or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
Phase 4.
Phase 4, yeah.
Sorry.
Me
I'm
too.
A fake fan.
And I haven't even watched most of that second season because I just don't like it.
Yeah.
What I've seen of it, and I didn't like the first season. But no, if I was gonna do the DC versus Marvel thing, you would play it like a Crisis, and you'd base it real loosely on that original story, and I would even go as far as to have the gods that represent the two companies, and be real meta about it, and I don't know if you could get away with playing it very seriously, or if you would have to do it a little bit more like a Deadpool and Wolverine kind of thing. But I would have the two big gods, and then I would have probably a 2-part film, even if you didn't do Amalgam, and I have the two universes sandwiched together, where those characters all live in a world now where they knew each other, but you don't get the new characters. They're not sandwiched together. Although if you did that, then you would have kind of some redundancies, and so I don't know how well that would work. I don't know. I'm going to sit here and talk myself into Amalgam, I guess. Maybe that's ultimately the only way to do it. But then you end up weirdly with the Power Rangers Alien Rangers problem, which is you have to recast all your main characters with different actors for a whole movie or a good chunk of one.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want to do anything really silly, like, I mean, you're right, an animated series is probably the way to do it, because it would be really easy to amalgamate them together and then kind of go 50-50 which voice is it going to be, and so sometimes you go with the DC voice and sometimes you go with the Marvel voice. Yeah. You wouldn't want to do anything in live action goofy, like you have the face of one character but one actor but the voice of the other actor. You know, you wouldn't want to do that. So you would have to still pick and choose what the faces were going to be. Or so I would probably do it like Tuvix and Voyager, and you just cast a whole different character, a whole different actor. I wouldn't have an actor have to be both. You know, so if you amalgamated a Superman and a Steve Rogers, whoever the original actors were, because we could be in a full-on reboot situation where we have a new Steve Rogers or something at the point they ever ended up doing that. But I don't think it's crazy to imagine that happens now. But if that happened, like, I wouldn't go with either of those actors. I would pick a new one. Yeah. If you had to do it. But I don't know what the story would be. I still am leaning toward it's a versus movie and nothing else. And still a Crisis movie. Yeah. Of some kind. Or maybe you could actually tell a somewhat like relatively smaller story where it doesn't have to be the universes are at stake. Yeah. And you just made it like the Justice League Avengers crossover or something like that. Yeah. Crisis. Was it Justice League, or was it because there's a Teen Titans one too? I think.
Crisis on even more Earths than you imagine.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking myself into Amalgam. I'm talking myself into something smaller.
Yeah.
You know, and still it would be epic, but it would be Civil War epic before it was Infinity War Endgame epic.
Honestly, I can't get excited about the next two Avengers movies or like any other crossover movie, or not crossover movie.
Or you just
any other like big event movie for MCU, just because I don't know, there's too many characters now, you know? And it's just
Are
like,
you also just done with the gimmick of bringing back old movies?
Yeah.
Like is that part of it?
And it's just everybody that's going to be way too many characters to fit in a movie.
Yeah, and we're just kind of trump ourselves.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
And like with Infinity War, at least every character got like a small scene or like their cool moment. You can't even do that now. Like, I don't know.
And even Endgame, you hardly were able to do that.
Right.
There were too many characters by that point. The last thing I'll say on this is, if it has, I'm going to keep saying it like this because I don't want this, but if it had to happen, it's hard right now at the point of history we are to imagine what it looks like, because we have an MCU that, yeah, I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine is doing huge guns, but that notwithstanding, we've got an MCU that is not pulling the numbers it used to and doesn't have the consumer confidence in it that it used to, and we have a DC universe that has ended and a new one that hasn't even started yet. So it's hard to imagine what that movie is.
Right.
But if it has to happen, can we please have both companies working on all cylinders before it does?
Yes.
Because there would be, as much as I don't need that gimmick, there would be maybe some fun to be had just in, at least I like most of these characters.
And can gun direct all of it.
And and just have gun directed, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a great question. Thanks for that. And it seems like every other week I'm talking about Amalgam still. Okay, so now we're going to get on, again, spoilers for Deadpool and the Wolverine. And the Wolverine. I kind of wish that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Deadpool
and Friend.
And Friend. Deadpool and the Logan.
The Logan.
This is from MovieWeb. No, I'm sorry. This is MSN.com. Something called MovieWeb is also on this page for some reason. Blade 4, starring Wesley Snipes, gets new pitch from X-Men 97 writer, and that was actually from the showrunner, who I think left already, Bo DeMayo. But he wants Marvel, he's pitched this to Feige, and he wants Marvel to do a Logan-style Blade movie with Wesley Snipes coming back after the success of Deadpool and Wolverine, and after one of the big standout things in that, again, spoilers, is Wesley Snipes returning as Blade. And I talked about this when I reviewed it. It was one of my absolute favorite parts. I was really happy with how that was handled, and I didn't expect it, and I thought he was just great. And I walked out of there similarly to the way I did with Spider-Man No Way Home, which I liked significantly less than I liked Deadpool and Wolverine, and said, I would maybe be on board with a new Blade movie. In the same way as, like, Tobey Maguire kind of impressed me with No Way Home, and I know not everybody feels that way, but I walked out of that movie going, like, as much as Homecoming is still my favorite live-action Spider-Man, the way they, in my mind, kind of screwed the pooch at the end of that movie, I would be fine now with a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4. I'm suddenly interested in it in a way I wasn't after Spider-Man 3. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about tonight is, what is the direction that Marvel should go, both with Blade and with some of these properties that people are more interested in now after bringing their versions of their characters back from old ended franchises. Is it too gimmicky to let each of them, like any of them, keep going, or do like one more? Because I don't want to be a hypocrite. Very often decades later sequels are terrible, and it's better to just leave them well enough alone. But I have a few really good arguments, I think, for why you might want to do it on a case-by-case basis with certain of them. So I can just lay this out real quick. Okay, the first thing is, People are suddenly more intrigued by that notion than some of what MCU is currently doing. So it may not be a bad idea for, again, case-by-case basis, 2 or 3 of these at least, and I think the big ones are Spider-Man 4 and Blade 4, to come back and do one last hurrah. I don't want a new Tobey Maguire franchise necessarily, but I think you could do something cool with one more movie. I would even maybe be okay with one more Amazing Spider-Man movie, just because that never got a proper third act, and it could still maybe be salvaged, you know? So, like, that for kind of a different reason, I guess. With Tobey Maguire, I would just be intrigued to see him carry a movie again. Yeah. At the age he is now. Maybe doing, like, a middle-aged, like, Spider-Man raising Mayday Parker or something, like, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Potentially. But that's my first argument, is a lot of us are just not sucked in anymore. We're just not invested in the way we were with Marvel. And these are movies that you could make as standalone things that would maybe just bring the interest and hype back a little bit in superhero movies. No, what you got to do is learn the right lessons from this. It can't all be that. And we can't do too many of them. You know what I mean? You want MCU at some point to turn back around and to make great original stuff again. So nobody misunderstand what I'm saying here, but I just think it might be a good idea right now in this like weird interim period that we're at before what a lot of us think are an inevitable soft reboot with Secret Wars that will probably bring some more of these characters in anyway. You know what I mean? Maybe give a couple of these things their own movies, and then secondly, as I kind of alluded to, you had these couple of appearances, like with Tobey Maguire, like with Wesley Snipes, where they seem, really kind of chomping at the bit to do it again. And I had a lot of fun with them, and I'm just intrigued to see like what you could maybe do with them. Mm-hmm. So like, oddly, it seems like if you're gonna do it the right time.
Yeah. No, I think so. Yeah, I would rather see a Blade 4 than a Spider-Man 4. But...
Sorry, that was my other big argument. I was sitting here trying to remember it. The other thing is, those two properties in particular did not end off in high notes. On high notes. Which means you're not risking, and also Amazing Spider-Man 2, you're not risking Andrew Garfield. You're not risking tarnishing as much the good name of those properties because they had bad third entries. Yeah. And Amazing had a bad second entry. Yeah. Now, some people like Spider-Man 3, but by and large, a lot of us agree Spider-Man 3 is not a great movie. So it might be more worth the risk to come back and give it one last hurrah.
Yeah.
As opposed to some other properties where maybe it's good to leave it well enough alone where it was in the first place. And ironically, Logan would have been one of those. And then a lot of us were won over some with what Hugh Jackman did in Deadpool and Wolverine. But again, the case by case. There are exceptions to things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would like an Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Sure.
Just because I like that world better. I would rather have that than a Spider-Man 4. But I would like to see what Tobey Maguire would do with a, growing up and, probably maybe knows how to act better. I don't know.
But when you said you wanted a Blade 4, let's get it back to Blade.
Yeah.
Do you say that just because he was so much fun in that movie?
Yeah. No, he did a really good job. And I thought maybe bringing back Blade would be a cool idea, but I didn't know if he would be good. And so, seeing him after Deadpool and Wolverine, it's like, oh, well, he's good. So maybe it'll work.
So here's what DeMeo is suggesting. I'm reading from this Microsoft article again. DeMeo's pitch for a Wesley Snipes Logan-inspired Blade 4 movie has a lot in common with the original pitch for Blade Trinity. Goyer originally planned for Blade Trinity to take place in a post-apocalyptic world where vampires were in control, inspired by I Am Legend, which I always wish had happened and didn't, and it sucked that that happened the way it did, and also was supposed to have Morbius in it.
Oh.
I think 3, if not 2, was supposed to be more. Maybe Morbius was set up for 2. I can't even remember now. It's been so long. The story would have seen Blade, who ages slower due to being half vampire, navigate a world run by vampires after they released a virus that caused the sun to only come out for 2 hours. The idea was scrapped for budgetary reasons, along with the filmmakers believing Blade worked better in a contemporary setting and feared the post-apocalyptic timeline would be too different from what audiences were used to following Blade and Blade 2. And yeah, doing something sort of like that, I don't think sounds terrible. I don't know that that's what they would make.
Probably not.
But it does kind of make sense to pattern it a little bit after Logan. It would be somewhat ironic given that Deadpool and Wolverine is making fun of Logan and that movie, you weren't supposed to have any more Wolverine after that. And then it spawns a thing that inspires another old man whoever. But yeah, I think you'd have to do it as kind of an old man Blade. The other thing that would make sense, like oddly would make sense about this, is that Blade is only half human, or is only half vampire, so it actually makes sense that he could look like an old man.
Yeah,
because a lot of vampire characters, you couldn't even come back and do this with an actor that now looks older,
right?
So you can have a Blade that's got white hair.
Yeah, and I think that would be cool.
I think it would too. Then the big question is, do you do this in conjunction with an original MCU Blade, which is still supposed to happen but has been delayed forever and has gone through like 19,000 directors, and there's been all this worry that it's going to be like really watered down and won't have an R rating, and it's going to be like really compromised, in violence and just adult material and that kind of thing. It'll be just really kind of Disney-fied, like modern Disney-fied. Yeah. People have been really concerned about that. Would it be better to let somebody come in and give them free reign, do a straight up, like whoever was to direct it, do a straight up Blade 4 more in the old Fox style, which would be more likely to happen now that you had Deadpool and Wolverine with the kid gloves mostly off. With Feige and Disney not really giving very many directives. Or could you see a world where those two movies could happen and, kind of exist in harmony, and then there's the question of which one do you put out first? And where, because Deadpool and Wolverine was as successful as it was, and was, by the way, the highest grossing R-rated movie now, opening weekend, but I think in general now, right? I think it got the record. I think I'm right. I think I read that the other day. Maybe Disney will relax and Feige will relax a lot more on even an MCU Blade, and it is possible that both of these things could get made and both of them are decent.
Yeah.
Like, is that possible?
Yeah, that is possible. We did get a question from Dalton Williams.
Yeah.
Do you want MCU Blade to be R-rated? And any picks for a future Ghost Rider?
The short answer is yes, but do I think you could do a PG-13 Blade that doesn't feel too watered down? Like, if the story's good and if you're, and if what makes it, you still have some of the more adult subject matter, but it's just PG-13 in that it's not as violent as those other movies. I don't personally think that what makes those movies great is, look, there's blood. You know what I mean? So, I think you could maybe do that.
I think so.
Also, if you go back to that first movie, that, besides language, that's a PG-13 movie now.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think that movie gets an R rating.
The first movie?
Yeah. I don't know that it gets an R rating now.
Okay.
I mean, we've really pushed the envelope. I also don't.
See,
think
I
the,
don't
I
know.
also don't think the Matrix gets an R now, except for some language.
I was thinking about that first scene.
maybe
where
all
I'm
the blood
like,
coming down, you wouldn't have that, but I'm not
know
sure.
About that. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
even think that would have happened in like the Batman.
No,
You know,
that's true. Maybe not.
I feel like that movie is a little harder than PG-13, but it would have been
I'm just
fine
saying,
as a PG-13 movie.
I think it could work, but I think you're more likely to get a great movie if it's allowed to go wherever the writers want it to go, and let it be violent if it needs to be violent, and go to whatever subject matter it's. I also think that when that movie comes out, if it's not R-rated, it's forced to be a lot more family friendly, and some of those great like more intimate dramatic scenes, particularly with the lead female character in that movie, would not have happened. So you did need it back then, most assuredly. So the short answer is yes. I hope now they do go rated R with it.
Yeah.
Yep, most assuredly.
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing he asked about? Ghost Rider?
Ghost Rider.
Just what about it? I forgot what he said.
Picks for a future Ghost Rider.
Oh, see, I'm not great with the fan casting thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will predict that you will see Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider in Secret Wars if they do any of those other like Fox and New Line and et cetera characters. Like I think you'll. And who was that? Sony at that point. I think you'll probably see that. But as far as who should play him now, I don't know. I mean, it also depends on which version they do. Like, would they do Johnny Blaze now, or would they go to, I can't remember the more recent, somewhat popular one that they did in Agents of Shield.
Yeah. And then we also have a question from OK Great.
Yeah.
And he asks, what if they did Blade 2099?
That'd be kind of a shock if we just sidestep it and we go, you know what, we're not going to do either of these things. Ali is going to play 2099 Blade, or is he? No, I guess he's suggesting that that's what you do with Wesley Snipes. Yeah. That, like, it's in the future and it's 2099. That would be hilarious. You do a movie called Blade 2099, but you don't do any other 2099 properties.
Right.
You do nothing else in 2099. Just Blade. You know what? I'm all for that. I'm actually all for that. That sounds great.
Yeah.
You set it in the far-flung future, and like an actual far-flung future, not 2026 or whatever like Logan was.
Yeah. I do think Blade 2099, like, because doesn't he have a couple appearances, like, as Blade 2099?
I think so.
And he has a cool costume.
Yeah. And it wouldn't have to be
samurai
based on
thing?
any of that stuff. You could just set it in that year, and it's just a nod to fans. It's like, it's set in the future, and it's this post-apocalyptic thing that DeMeo wanted, and it's the year happens to be 2099.
But I do think Wesley Snipes in that, like, samurai getup would be pretty cool.
Goofster says it'll be 2099 before another Blade movie comes out. I don't think so at this point. I think now they will rush something. Because, for two big reasons, of course. A, Deadpool and Wolverine is the highest grossing R-rated movie. At least opening weekend, if not of all time. And secondly, because Blade himself is one of the standouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you won't get another Elektra movie.
No, I don't think they'll do that. Not, could she come back for Secret Wars? I mean, maybe. I kind of don't think you'll see anybody that was in that, though.
No.
In Secret Wars, because they played them all for comedy.
Right. Well, I mean, we're getting Next Wave 3, though. But...
Oh, really?
Right? I heard rumors about that.
Why? Nothing is confirmed as far as I understand it about Secret Wars whatsoever. And keep in mind that we just recently had the Russos announced.
Right.
So who knows what they're cooking up. But anyway, so that's what I wanted to talk about with that. Oh, and just the other thing I wanted to suggest real quick is... it may be smart if you're still gonna do both to do Wesley Snipes' version first, because you might have more goodwill with fans that don't trust you with the one that you've been waiting forever on. And then my worry, though, would be they put that out and that does really well and they still just don't have any idea or direction for an original Blade movie. And so I don't know. I could see the eventuality where the smartest thing to do is just one more Wesley Snipes Blade and give up on him for MCU. But again, I don't mean to repeat myself, but if this lets them get a little bit more relaxed and loose with things, the best thing that could come out of Deadpool and Wolverine's success is they finally know what to do with MCU's Blade. You know, that's possible, whether we get a Wesley Snipes thing or not. So I don't know. Like, I think this all could actually bode really well for the future of that character as some kind of a franchise, if not just one more movie. But I think something will finally happen with it now.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah.
But man, one of my favorite things with that movie, like my favorite line in that whole movie, is just that they made a joke about the fact that this thing is maybe never going to come out.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
That's really funny.
Okay, more news. Hey, this is weird. This comes from Deadline. J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. Oh, hold on. Let me make this so that people can see it. What do you think?
Sure.
J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot in negotiation with Warner Brothers to extend film and TV deal. And my question is why? Like, this is a guy who is gonna always have work even if he's not producing anything. I don't know what's going on with this. Let me just preface this by saying I have liked properties that J.J. Abrams has worked on. I also blame J.J. Abrams for everything that has gone wrong with Star Trek, because if his production company had never gotten it, we wouldn't be in the new Trek place that we're in, and that sucks and makes me angry. And he also kind of ruined Star Wars. So good job, J.J. Abrams. You destroyed like everybody's favorite properties. Because if you're a geek like me and you're not a big Star Trek fan, you're probably a Star Wars fan. So this guy, directly or indirectly, messed up both of those franchises. But, you know, I was a big Lost fan, and Abrams, you know, had, like, some to do with that show, but, like, it wasn't even, you know, exactly his thing. And then it was more of a Lindelof thing. But, like, I've liked other stuff he's worked on, but it's all older. Like, he hasn't done anything of note lately, and more, I'm sorry to say it, like, he's an okay director. Storytelling-wise, like, the man's kind of a hack. And almost admittedly so. Like, there was, I don't remember direct quotes or anything, there was some interview he gave at one point almost, like, making fun of people for being invested in Force Awakens and expecting that story to go anywhere. I mean, it just seemed like he was laughing all the way to the bank. And I'm like, well, that's not fair. Like, why do you got to be like that? So, I don't have even as much respect for this guy as I used to, and his name is still on things sometimes that do well, but he doesn't seem to have much to do with them. Like, his name is on Cape Crusader, and one of the only things that came out of this Warner Brothers contract he had was Cape Crusader, which was axed originally in HBO Max, and only happened because Amazon picked it up. Everything he was supposed to work on, including some really expensive, like, sci-fi or fantasy show, got axed before or when Zaslav came on. And now they've extended his deal, even though he hasn't actually produced anything. So this says the tenure of J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot at Warner Brothers Television is expected to cross the 20-year mark. So keep in mind, he was there for a long time, but he was supposed to have, like, this whole DC thing. And he was supposed to do all these projects, and none of them ended up happening. That sci-fi drama I told you about is called, how do you even pronounce it? Demonond? Demonond? Maybe it got axed because no one could pronounce it.
It's a French word, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Well, I'm just an uncultured swine then. That's fine. I'll stop making fun of things I don't understand.
In 19th century France, the class of women considered to be of doubtful morality and social standing.
They canceled it because nobody knows how to speak French. So I don't know. Maybe he'll actually make some things now. I mean, hopefully so, because they're giving him more money. I told Austin, I was like, he must have dirt on somebody at Warner Brothers. Like I don't know how he keeps getting work. He hasn't been making anything. And when was the last time he had like a huge hit that he had all that much to do with? Maybe there's stuff he's made that I don't know about, but I haven't heard about him in a while. Coming up for Bad Robot is a drama series Duster on Max with a Speed Racer series in the works at Apple Plus. He's making a Speed Racer series. I hope it's not live action. Along with other shows set up around town. On the film side, the company has a few projects in development, with its first movie for Warner Brothers deal, Flower Vale Street, slated for 2025 release.
No one's gonna watch any of this.
So he's making stuff, but I still want to know what that whole DC thing was about.
Yeah.
Now, I think, to be fair, his name is on Lanterns. I think. And so maybe he's been actively in development with that thing. I hope that show's good, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
What show?
Lanterns.
Oh, yeah, I do know about that. I'm hoping that's good.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that that's... Well, and it's, you know... I'm hoping that it is only set in space and there is no Earth stuff at all.
But yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up real quick, because it was a little surprising to me that they renewed his contract. I feel like there's something going on behind the scenes there that we don't know about. Okay, so we've got a new trailer for Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
Jason, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. It'll probably be better than Madam Web.
I mean, the bar is real high there.
Just based on this trailer. I do think this trailer was better than the last trailer.
They cut a decent trailer.
They did.
What this trailer teaches us is that if you use a later stage Johnny Cash song, yes, immediately your movie seems serious and heightened and stylized.
Yes.
And you know they were looking at Logan when they did that. I can't remember. I think When the Man Comes Around is even maybe a song they used in the Logan trailers. I can't remember. Or no. Okay, so it's coming back to me now. They used Hurt for the trailer, but When the Man Comes Around was actually in, if I'm not mistaken, the credits at the end of Logan.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why they did that. But I will say, it looks a lot more polished than those have. And I can't get excited about anything about that premise. And I don't love, like, a Kraven that has, like, animal whispering powers. And the whole thing where you just got all these Spider-Man villains that are never going to fight Spider-Man is still awkward. Like, it's never going to not be awkward. But I predict it will probably be the most watchable and the most like a real movie of all of these.
Mm-hmm.
Which is still not saying anything.
Well,
it will still probably be kind of dull and feel a little bit like a mid 2000s superhero movie, but a little rougher.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say just because it's R, it's going to be a good movie, because it also could then fall into the camp of sort of like glorified horror B-movie. It could get more in that place, which the Venom movies already sort of have, even though they're not rated R. You realize this is now the 5th of these, even though Madam Web is not supposed to be in the same continuity, but I count it. I lump it in with all that. You got 2 Venom movies. You got Morbius. You got just the world we live in now. This all exists. Madam Web, and now the Kraven the Hunter movie. I don't think it has a chance at making any money. Unless the word of mouth for opening weekend is just huge.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also delayed. It's real late. Everybody's forgotten about it. I don't know that this trailer is gonna remind enough people that it's still happening. I don't know. I did hear about it where some people seemed a little bit surprised by it. We're like, it looks better than I thought, but it doesn't look brilliant or anything.
Also, I don't
you know what I mean? Which one of these is gonna have to if people are gonna go, because now their reputation is absolutely in the floor.
Right.
It's not even like fun bad like some people think Venom is.
Also, I don't want. Right, because it feels like it's taking itself too seriously, and Venom didn't.
Well, when I say it, I just mean these movies. You know what I mean? Like, after Morbius, like, all bets are kind of off.
Yeah. But, also, I didn't ever want them to do another Rhino, because there's only one Rhino.
And that's the Rhino! Yeah. So, obviously, we're going to see it and review it. We'll see how that is. It's coming out in December, which is a really strange month for that. I don't think that's going to do it any favors either. Oh yeah, let's make it a Christmas movie.
That's also when... Yeah, that's also when something else was coming out. I can't remember what that... Was that...
I wonder if they weren't trying to not go up against Joker 2, because that's October.
Okay. Yeah. Was December also Y2K?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a trailer that we watched today.
Yeah.
I'll just mention that real briefly, since Jason just brought it up. There's this kind of comedy horror thing from Jonah Hill coming out
it's
called...
an A24 film.
Yes, it's an A24 thing. So you kind of know what to expect from those, but it's Y2K. It looks like a real typical Jonah Hill kind of thing. If you like that sort of comedy, it might be funny. It's got kind of Hot Tub Time Machine vibes, and that was a guilty pleasure for me. I thought that first movie was kind of funny, and the second movie had its moments, I guess. But anyway, the only reason I thought this was worth mentioning, and I don't know that I'll go see it, like maybe when it comes out,
I won't.
Netflix or something, I might give it a watch. But the only reason I thought it was kind of relevant, kind of worth mentioning, is just because we're on this big 90s nostalgia high right now, and I'm wondering how long it lasts. And immediately when I saw this title and I realized what the premise was, I went, okay, how did this movie not come out back then? Like, it doesn't just look nostalgia throwback. I mean, it absolutely does. And the way they're selling it, they're making it, look, everybody, it's the 90s. But, and obviously, the premise of it is Y2K really does actually happen. And all the technology wreaks havoc in kind of a maximum overdrive sort of way. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, in 2012, we made a disaster movie called 2012. Like, how did Y2K not come out in Y2K?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in 2000?
Yeah.
I'm actually shocked that didn't happen. So, in some ways, that trailer sort of looks like they made a movie that should have come out 24 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was sort of amusing.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea.
It's an obvious idea that should have been made back then.
I'm not going to see it because I don't like Rachel Zegler, but...
What have you seen her in that you didn't like?
Shazam 2.
Oh, that's true.
All the stuff with her with Snow White.
That's true. Hey, remember I mentioned Nicolas Cage earlier?
What?
So here's a thing that's happening that I can't believe.
Wait.
You can't make this up. Amazon, this is from Deadline, Amazon MGM sets Nicolas Cage to play John Madden in David O. Russell directed Madden.
He's not even...
Who the heck is John Madden anyway? He doesn't even look like an athlete. Can't you just see it in the face? Isn't Nicolas Cage the obvious actor to play John Madden? Like, I hate to say this, but how much weight is he gonna have to put on? Like, or is it, like a way younger John Madden? But it's Nicolas Cage, so he's not gonna be playing a really young John Madden.
Right, because he's Nicolas Cage.
Because he's pushing 60. Can you believe that?
Oh, no.
I almost see it. How do you not look at that? And I hope it's one of those movies where Nicolas Cage does his, like, outrageous freaking out at somebody thing. I'm sure that's why he got cast, because John Madden was known for being really, really animated. I wonder just how much of a temper John Madden had, because if he was known for that and I don't know about it, that would be the other reason that Nicolas Cage was hired for that role. But oh my god, that could be hilarious. I have a prediction about that. It'll be more fun than Air.
Well, yeah. I don't know. There was some really funny stuff in Air, though.
Okay, but we hated that.
Yeah, no, it was terrible.
It was nominated for an Oscar. It was awful.
It was awful, especially
Maybe
since
even
it came out at the same time as Tetris, which was an amazing movie.
Well, I mean, it was good.
I liked it a lot. Well, maybe not amazing, but it was great. But it was
okay. So we also saw a trailer for something today that I didn't even know what's happening. I missed the boat on this. This comes out August 29th. I don't know if they're dropping all of it at once. Netflix usually drops a whole series at one time, though, so probably. This is an 8-episode anime that looks like it's kind of along the same lines, and I don't know if it's a straight-up anime or if it's like a American-made, but yeah, it looks like it's both, where it's like there's people here, people in Japan making it together, but it looks like it's along the same lines as the Godzilla anime that was on Netflix, but they're doing a Terminator one. Yeah. And we saw the sneak peek for this today, so it's not a teaser or a trailer. It's like a 2-minute scene that's just establishing the machines in the future, and one of them, about to go back in time, and it looks great. And I'm actually really excited about it now that we've seen that video. And the score is killer.
Yeah.
Like, it stuck with me for half an hour. Just that little 2-minute thing. Like, I couldn't get it out of my head.
Cool.
It was great, yeah. But yeah, the animation looks cool, and I can't tell if it's supposed to be in the same universe or if it's like a slightly different version where everything's about Japan instead of America. But the dates are the same, where like it's still going back to 1997. But it's going back to Tokyo this time. So like it's about Japan. So I can't tell if we're doing Terminator again, but this time it's Japan, or if there's like multiple Terminators that were sent back around the same time. But or when I say 1997, I mean that's still the year that Judgment Day is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But that looks great, and I will watch it, and we will talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like something like the Godzilla anime or the Gamera anime.
Yeah.
Those were on Netflix. So yeah.
But there's a lot of those, and the track record for those have been pretty decent. Like, I like the Castlevania one a lot. It's a little bit different from those. And then there's also one for Tomb Raider that's coming out soon that I saw a trailer for today. That I wasn't as taken with as the Terminator one, but I'll probably watch that too. Yeah. So yeah,
well,
thanks Japan for making things about my favorite things when America either won't or does them terribly. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Tomb Raider guy though, so.
I'm not either. Like, I haven't played a lot in the way of the games, but it's a premise I like.
Yeah.
And she always seems really cool, and I loved the reboot movie. There was talk for a while about a sequel to that. I haven't heard about that in a long time, but I bet if that finally comes out, it'll just be streaming. It probably won't even make it to the theater. Okay, we're almost to an hour.
I finally got a PS1 emulator on my phone, so I might
we're back to the emulator talk.
Play Tomb Raider. I'm not going to talk more about emulators.
Jason, why don't you read us the super chat, and then we'll take a break, and if we don't have a lot of interaction in the second hour, I'll mention a couple more of these articles, because I have a few more that I could have brought up, but I hit the major stuff I wanted to talk about.
Cool. All right. We got a $5 super chat from Dan Schneider, and he says...
Thanks, man.
J.J. Abrams has the same dirt that Simon Kinberg has. They are able to get work because they both know where the bodies are buried. Remember Jumper.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do now remember Jumper because I avoided it like the plague for years and then decades, and then I finally had to do it on the Superhero Rewind commentary project, and to this day, it is at the bottom of my list in the ranking.
Is it at the bottom?
Yeah.
Wow.
Even under stuff like Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe is great. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then Alex Kurtzman is like that too. There's these guys that keep failing upward. Yeah. There's something we're missing. There's something going on there. There's a whole conspiracy. I don't mean to be conspiracy theorist guy. There's a whole conspiracy there.
Yeah.
That might not be the right word, but there's information we don't have because those careers make no sense.
What are your thoughts on conspiracy theorism?
We got like a minute and a half before the break, and you bring this up.
Yeah, like, do you? I don't know. Maybe we can tackle this after the break. But, like, do you? Like, do you ever actually think about that stuff, or do you like just not really care to like theorize things?
No, I mean it's interesting. You don't want to make like baseless, unfounded theories or or claims or grasp at straws and like try to put together connections that are probably just coincidences. At the same time, I don't know. I'm hesitating because I'm going to sound like when I say this, I agree with a lot of crazy conspiracy theories. But some of these things end up not being as crazy as they sometimes sound because reality is sometimes stranger than fiction. So at first glance, we'll be like, oh my God, that's such a nutso crazy conspiracy theory. And then 20 years later, something as crazy as that will turn out to be true. And you're like, well, I mean, maybe that wasn't real, but it didn't. It sounds more plausible now that I found out this happened. You know what I mean? Sometimes we will. So I guess I'll say case by case, like with anything. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's fair to immediately write every quote unquote conspiracy theory off because that becomes a buzzword to the point where no one's allowed to have to like question the government or question big business or people that actually have the power to create conspiracies if they want to. You know what I mean? On the other hand, some of these agencies clearly are not adept enough or competent enough to pull off some of the things that conspiracy theorists think that they have managed. But anyway, I think it's a bad idea to full on vilify the notion of a conspiracy theory because because I think people start to get the idea in their heads that conspiracies don't happen, and all a conspiracy is a secret plan nobody knows about, where there are machinations happening behind closed doors. Well, of course that happens. Now, what we very often mean are like Mammon level master manipulation plots. Yeah. And, when we start getting into like deep state and that kind of stuff, a lot of those things do sound too impressive and impossible and grandiose to really be true. But then there are things that for decades people have thought are ridiculous conspiracy theories, and then finally things are declassified and it turns out that there was some truth to them. That has happened at least a couple or a few times. You know what I mean? So, like I don't mean to sound wishy-washy on this, but at the same time as you want to be skeptical when you hear these things, you also can't write every one of them off, because to do that is to be way too trusting in institutions. And I don't mean to get political or anything, but I think it's just always a good idea to have a healthy skepticism. So I think you should be skeptical of all of it. I think you should be skeptical of the conspiracy theories, and you should be skeptical of the agencies that we're talking about. has the government been covering up aliens all this time? I don't know. You know, is Elvis? Did Elvis Presley die when we thought he did? Yeah, yeah, yes, he did. You know what I mean? Did we go to the moon? Yes. Was there more going on with JFK than the government said there was? Well, yes, we know that for sure now, because of what was declassified. So, like, forever, that was one of those big conspiracy theories, and it turns out there was more going on there. So I haven't looked deep into that, but my wife and I were talking about that the other day. Anyway, thanks for opening up that can of worms.
Sorry.
And naturally, of course, the viewership got to its pitch, to its peak, right when I was hoping nobody was paying attention.
Yeah, everyone's like, man, we're going to an After Dark place.
A little bit, but anyway, Matthew Bass is like, put on your tinfoil hat. I'm not even talking about anything in particular. I'm just saying that yes, people in power have to keep secrets. There's no way that doesn't happen. Go ahead and read Connor's. Yeah. Actually, go ahead and read his super chat real quick.
Cool.
Because he just wanted to recommend something, so I don't think I'll have a ton to say about this. And thanks for the super chat, Connor. Appreciate you, buddy. And then we will going into the break.
Okay. We have a $10 super chat from Connor.
Okay, great. Is there really a moon?
We got a $10 super chat from Connor Nielsen, and he says, recommendation, Sing Sing, now playing limited. It's about prisoners putting on a theater production for inmates. Closest I came sharing your fear of prison, but feel good movie nonetheless.
It's interesting.
You have a fear of prison?
I do.
Oh,
we're just learning a lot about me tonight.
Sorry about that.
No, I brought this up on the channel. In a few places.
Do?
Yes. I have I have kind of an unrealistic fear of prison.
Huh.
Like, you know, I haven't done anything that would warrant going to prison. But I have this like that's the word I was looking. I have like this irrational fear. And I think that God, I'm being forced to go into like political places.
Sorry.
I don't usually go. But I actually have like huge issues. I've looked into this some, and I had to quit looking at it because it bothered me too much. But I have like real issues with the prison system, and I've considered trying to getting into prison reform and that kind of thing. And it would be if I was to get into like public service of any kind, that would be a big issue for me.
Yeah, I always thought like some and I'm not really thinking too much about like the prison system in general here, but just I think having a more like cut down life where it's like where you like only have like a couple places you can go to, and you have like, you know, your resources are limited and stuff. That always like just felt interesting to me. You know, I always like, I don't know, the lack of things is just interesting to me. I don't know.
Yeah, of like creature comforts.
Yeah.
Well, and I was always fascinated by that with things like Escape from New York and then, Arkham City. Like the idea of putting prisoners in an area of a city where, like you said, their resources are limited, but they're not like in a cell. So it's kind of a fascinating notion to me. But anyway, I will take a look at that, Connor. I had not heard about that. That sounds really interesting. It's also curious to me that he says these two things in the same sentence. It made him feel scared of prison, like my irrational fear, but it's a feel-good movie.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
You've had that before.
Professor Zoom, you better behave then, Cap. Yeah, I guess so. Cedar Stick says you have the tattoos, so you'll be fine. Well, my tattoos would get me beat up probably. And either that or somebody would take one look at the Bubbles tattoo and be like, that guy must be crazy. Like that looks like a real prissy tattoo. He must have murdered someone if he's going to come here with that tattoo. So like, I don't know, maybe I'd be okay. But the irrational fear of prison was a thing that I considered when I was getting tattoos. It was not anything like my main motivation. But have I ever told you about this? I did consider this a little bit, where I went, if something horrible ever happened, and like something like that happened, where I go to prison for life or something, I've got pictures of my favorite things on myself that I can't take with me. Like I did have that thought a little bit when I was doing that. I'm getting deeply personal in kind of an After Dark sort of way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that you're doing this to me.
Would you? Okay.
We've got to go to the break.
I'm sorry. I keep coming up with questions, but would you write
Professor Zoom? It's okay. Bubbles is hardcore.
Would you write a story set in prison?
I don't know. I've never given that any thought. It would require some research that might make me uncomfortable, but then I've also done some of that.
Yeah.
So maybe. Probably a short story before a novel.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe. I would be more likely to write like some kind of, cool out there sci-fi prison before a real realistic, present day sort of thing. Let's go ahead and go to the break, folks. We'll be back in about 3.5, 4 minutes. Welcome if you just got here. We're going to come back for the second hour pretty soon and open with a segment from Jason, and then whatever you guys want to talk about for nearly a full hour. And we will see you, like I said, in just a few minutes. everybody, we are back. It's time for the second half of tonight's edition of the Captain Logan Show. And here in a few minutes, we're going to start taking your questions about anything under the sun within reason you'd like to talk about, anything around my son that you'd like to talk about. Superhero movie related, sci-fi, comics, whatever geeky stuff you want to talk about. And in the interim, and you can leave super chats if you're so inclined. That guarantees that we'll talk about your topic. Or you can leave regular comments as well. And make sure to tag Jason on those. Because he is the official mod for the show. And now it's time for everybody's favorite new segment, The Next Generation.
Yeah!
And Jason is gonna talk about whatever he wants to talk about.
Whatever I want to talk about for a few minutes. Okay, so this time we have a little mini review from me, a little how we felt about, but just from me because you haven't seen this movie. And I watched this for a history class, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it. This movie is
because you're doing a segment on the 50s right now.
On the 50s right now, yeah. And like the beginnings of the Cold War.
So you were able to pick from a list of different movies.
Yeah. And so I picked this one because it felt like it like defined the 50s kind of just in synopsis. And I'll talk about that.
No, indicative of the period.
Just indicative of the period. And that movie is Rebel Without a Cause. From 1955. It stars James Dean, and as Jim, whatever this last name is, and this movie is about how some people are bad parents, and it's about the consequences of bad parenting.
I love bad parenting movies.
Our main character, Jim, is kind of like the new kid in town. And he's going to like a new school. It's his first day of school. And he becomes friends with other kids who also have bad parents. And they start a feud with some of the school bullies. And they have to try to get out of the feud. It's funny how any way you try to explain the plot of this movie, I just read like a quick synopsis of this movie before I watched it just to see like what I was getting myself into, and it makes it feel like a fun romantic high school movie, and it's not. Like I turn it on and it starts with like a 20-minute sequence, like really dramatic sequence in a police station where our main underage character is very drunk, and it's like it is very dramatic, and it has some of the best writing I've seen for like teenagers. They're not super whiny in my opinion.
So it's everything you wish CW shows were, but aren't.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it has probably one of the best scenes I've seen in a movie in a while, which is no, big spoilers, but which is the scene where the main character is trying to get his parents to like agree with him because he did something really bad, and he's trying to like.
Does he have an irrational fear of prison?
He's actually trying to get to the police, and his parents won't let him.
Oh, wow. That's
right?
the opposite.
So and he wants his parents to like stand up for him and actually, treat him like a real person, and they don't. And he also has like anger issues. And I think my best thing with this movie is James Dean in general. He plays his character really well. And he's just this kid who has, who like wishes that his parents would just treat him like another person and would actually like, talk to him. and give him advice and stuff. And I think the worst thing for me is this character doesn't, or not this character, sorry. Time doesn't really work right in this movie. I don't know, I don't really understand how time moves in this story. The whole story takes place within a whole day. And within just one day.
Events occur in real time.
Yeah. In just one day. And there's a whole love triangle between three characters who two of them have never met the other person until now.
And so when you say love triangle, you mean like completely resolved from beginning, middle to end?
Yes.
In a day.
In a day.
So it feels like a relationship is more serious than it should be?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a whole, like, friendship where, like, 20 minutes into this movie, they're, like, best friends. And I'm like, how?
So do you think the movie... Because I have a theory about that, even though I've not seen the movie.
Uh-huh.
I can give you a suggestion of from that time period, especially why that might have happened.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: while you're watching it, do you think the movie is cheating on purpose in like it's a heightened, story, and maybe nobody will notice, and it doesn't matter if we're realistic about the way time is moving, or do you think the movie forgets how much time has passed?
No, it feels like a day. Like there is like the first part of the movie, it's dark because it's early morning, and then the middle of the movie it's light and it's like school day, and then it's the evening.
Okay, I know nothing about this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, basic premise, but I've never actually sat and watched it. So I don't know if this is true. It sounds like a stage play turned into a movie.
It feels like that. It actually does feel like that. Yeah.
I wonder if that's why.
Yeah. I also like how it kind of gets you into the movie, because it doesn't really do much of like setup. It kind of throws you into the story, and like you have to figure out what these kids' problems are just by watching how they interact with people.
Which makes it feel more realistic, I'm sure.
Makes it feel more realistic. And I don't know, I did really enjoy this movie, and if you like 50s and 60s dramas, you've probably seen this already. But if you haven't, then I do suggest it.
But you ought to.
Yeah.
I wonder if Connor's seen that movie. Because that sounds like a Connor movie.
He probably has.
I wonder if Connor's still watching. Connor, have you seen that movie?
But yeah, that's my segment. I liked that movie, and I am going to probably show my mom it soon.
Cool. Well, I should watch it too.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, thanks for talking about that movie.
Yeah.
And we look forward to whatever random thing you have for us
Next
on
time.
the next generation next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Okay, let's go to the proverbial phones. We'll actually open the phones at some point on one of these shows.
Yeah.
I did that for my birthday show last week, and it was great. I talked to 8 or 9 of our viewers. We had some really, really nice, fun, interesting phone calls. But tonight we're just going to interact with you in the chat. And we already have some super chats, so let's go ahead and start on those.
Okay.
But we can also go back to Patreon. We can go to pre-written questions. And so keep the questions coming tonight, folks. We got about 35 minutes to answer some stuff for you guys.
Yeah. We have a $2 super chat from OK Great.
Thanks, man.
And he asks, who's excited for The Crow?
Not me. That looks dreadful. I've said for years I really wish they wouldn't remake that. And it looks like everything I was hoping it wouldn't
remake The Crow.
Yeah, I even did a song about that. I wish that wasn't happening. It comes out this weekend. And Jason, it's the first superhero movie since I started. Well, the second that I've seriously considered not even bothering going to and reviewing.
What was the first one?
I almost didn't go... Okay, I guess technically the third. But I almost didn't go to Super Pets.
Oh, well.
And then I did end up seeing that in the theater. And I guess I did go back and forth a little bit on Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Not even because I was, like, annoyed and didn't want to see it. I was just like, it's this kind of cartoon movie. It barely even counts. And then I'm like, it's still a superhero movie. I guess I better review it. So I did go ahead and go. But, not that being a cartoon or being animated makes it less of... It's just... That just looked like a long cartoon as opposed to a movie, if that makes any sense. But I finally went, whatever, it counts, I'll go. And I ended up enjoying that even, quite a bit more than I expected to, even though I've still got huge problems with it, which I've broken down on an off-the-cuff rewind. But the Crow remake looks like the Flatliners remake or the Poltergeist remake. I don't want to go. Like, it looks like that.
Well, you saw those, so you'll be fine.
It just looks, but yeah, and I wanted to slit my wrist the whole way through, particularly with Flatliners. I don't want to see that. And you can already guess what the review looks like. I mean, I never want to be like that before I see a thing, but I can't imagine what the redeeming quality of that is. But that means my standards are on the floor, so it doesn't have to do that much to impress me, certainly. Alex Barron, Jason was talking about Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah.
That was the movie he just reviewed. He did a little mini review for his segment.
Review.
Anyway, thanks for reminding me about that. No, this weekend I'm going to see the new Alien movie, which has been out for a few days now, and Alien Romulus, and which, is immediately odd for me being a Star Trek guy that it's called that. But I'm going to go see that, and Austin and I are going to try to review it, I think, Monday night. And so if I do The Crow, it'll be the week after. I really don't want to. I'll be kicking and screaming. I'll be sneaking into the theater. I won't even buy a ticket. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that.
Just to know that no one is watching you.
And there's still a bunch of stuff that's kind of recent that I want to do a review of. By the way, I put out a question. I put out feelers to see what somewhat recent things people wanted to see us talk about, Jason, and I had a ton of responses. There's just a bazillion of things, yeah. Some of them cheated. Some of the responses were things that came out 40 or 50 years ago, and I went, that's not recent. You got to read the question. But most of them were actually things within the last 5 or 10 years, or even the last couple of years, and so that tells me that there's a lot of interest in my catching up on some things.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to do My Adventures with Superman in the next couple of weeks with John, but Jason hasn't started it yet, and that's 2 seasons we'll have to watch instead of just 1, so it may still be a little while, but that is coming for folks that have been looking forward to that, which is why I keep talking about it, because I want people to know that I have finally looked at it and really like it.
Yeah.
But
you should watch the pilot for Series of Unfortunate Events.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's a thing you love. Yeah.
Well, and you like Neil Patrick Harris.
That's over a decade old now.
No. That's 2018.
Series of Unfortunate Events? Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought that was like 13 or 14.
Nope.
Okay. Well then.
The movie's 04, but...
Oh yeah, that's right, with Jim Carrey.
Which is fine. I finally watched it.
Oh,
it has
you?
the weirdest ending ever if you know those books.
Okay, moving right along.
$5 super chat from Super Billy.
Yeah.
The rumor is Marvel and Sony are...
This is 2 parts, by the way.
Yeah. So, $10 super chat for an
Yeah, thanks, man. I'll just do a big gong at the end. Yeah.
Okay. The rumor is Marvel and Sony are at odds creatively regarding the direction of Tom Holland's 4th Spider-Man film. Marvel wants a small-scale Spidey/Daredevil team-up film, and Sony wants more No Way Home. That doesn't surprise me at all if it's true that is.
So, I had heard part of this, and I agree. None of that surprises me if it turns out to be true. The one part of it that could be wishful thinking on somebody's part is Daredevil team up, but I also had heard the rumor, and it sounded very like more than plausible, that Marvel really wants to get back down to basics with Spider-Man, and Feige's like, okay, No Way Home made a ridiculous amount of money, but we don't want to put all of our eggs in that basket. You know, more and more, and Feige's made some mistakes. How do you not in that job, right? Don't get me wrong, but a lot of the like weird choices and things I haven't liked about Marvel lately, I've been finding out more and more are not always. I mean, obviously the buck stops with him. So when you don't like big executive decisions that are made, obviously you still have to blame him for them because he could say no. But some of the things that I thought were his idea in the first place turned out to be things that he kind of did kicking and screaming, or that he initially said, this is a bad idea, let's not do that. And I'm not saying this turned out to be bad, although I didn't necessarily want it in the first place, but the whole thing with Wolverine being in the third Deadpool movie, Feige, it turns out, said, yeah, don't do that. He was left in such a great place with Logan, it's a bad idea. And it was actually Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds that convinced him to do it. So that's maybe not a great example because for at least a lot of us that ended up turning out pretty well. But anyway, I say all of that to say it doesn't surprise me if, because it was his idea, I think, or at least he more than signed off on it, obviously, to take what was supposed to just be a stinger in after credits with the third Spider-Man movie and turn it into the movie, which is the other two Spider-Mans from the other franchises show up at the end. Oh, we're doing multiverse, let's just make it the whole movie. It doesn't surprise me if Feige, at this point, if Feige went, okay, let's not milk that to the end of time. We did our bit with that. We're doing it in some other movies already, and we left Tom Holland's Spider-Man at this very, like, back to the beginning, back to basics kind of place. Let's not just repeat ourselves and keep doing that and get all gimmicky. Even though it made a lot of money, we're going to lose Spider-Man fans if that's all we make. And it also makes perfect sense that Sony, which has won an Oscar for a Spider-Verse movie, says that's all we should be making with Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Is we need to run that gimmick into the ground, and all they want are like big event things. Clearly that's not surprising, and it also makes sense that they don't want real, character-driven things. If that's the case, given what they've been making on the Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man side.
Yeah.
So that is all probably likely. The question is, who ends up winning that argument?
Hopefully Marvel, honestly.
Yeah.
If they do another Spider-Man movie and it's like the last two Spider-Man movies, I don't want to go.
If I'm Kevin Feige, this is the compromise I try to make with them. Now, keep in mind, Sony has enough control over that character that if that's what they really want, I don't know exactly what the contract looks like. There's been, and I don't know how much of this is true, there's been talk for a long time about, certain stipulations that they have to have with those movies that Sony instituted. Where like you always had to have a like big Marvel character team up thing. There were certain stipulations that they always had. If I'm Feige, so I guess what I'm saying is, it could be that Sony has enough power that if they really want that, their contract reads such that they can pull the plug. Somewhat easily on a project if Marvel doesn't give them enough of what they want with it. I don't know. If I'm Kevin Feige, the compromise I would try to strike is another Tom Holland, another movie for one or both of the other Spider-Mans from No Way Home, like we were talking about earlier. How does Sony say no to that? Look how well No Way Home did. You don't need another team-up movie with those three Spider-Men. All you need is to do a spin-off project and let Tobey Maguire get a movie, or let Garfield get a movie, or, and I don't want this, but I don't know, team them up in their own multiverse thing and leave Tom Holland out of it, and let MCU Spider-Man have his, have his own movie and not be mired down by multiverse stuff. Again, nobody, misunderstand what I'm saying. I don't want that, but that would be a way to get around that. I would also, if I was Kevin Feige, ask Sony why in the world, unless this is still part of contractual obligations. I'm not sure. I'm confused about this whole thing, because there's been rumors forever that Kraven will be the movie that finally has Spider-Man, and Morbius will be the movie that finally has Spider-Man, and then none of them ever do. And I'm like, well, they were allowed. Pardon me with my machine making noises. They were allowed to mention his name in the after credits with Morbius. I don't know if there's a contractual thing that doesn't let them have their own Spider-Man, but I didn't think there was. So if they can, so that's the stipulation, of course, if they're able to do that, why doesn't Feige go, look, Sony, you can just make your own Spider-Man movies. Just, like, cast somebody. We've got an established multiverse. Just have your own universe. You're already doing it. You just haven't put Spider-Man in them.
Yeah.
Just do that. What are you doing?
I don't understand what they're doing. Like,
yeah, nobody does. It makes no sense. And Kraven, I think they've said, is the last of these things they're going to make.
Oh wow.
If it were to do well, wow. I say Kraven's the Venom 3.
Venom 3, but yeah.
The Last Dance. But I don't think they're going to make any more after that. They could just make their own Spider-Man thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, as far as the Daredevil thing goes, that would be cool. Like, I hope that's what they make. Because they could take... Because first of all, I've always loved Spider-Man and Daredevil teaming up in the first place. It would be the right way to get that actor on the big screen in more than a little cameo, like with No Way Home. It would be, I guess, kind of fun connective tissue with that. And it would be a way to take Spider-Man back to basics, but not just do another origin film again. And it might be cool if a Spider-Man who has no friends, has no supporting cast now, nobody knows who he is anymore, if that movie was a little more melancholy than the Home trilogy was. And Daredevil would be a way to give it that tone and let it be a little bit melancholy. So I am all for that. Now, I say that having not yet, of course, seen whatever Daredevil Born Again ends up looking like.
Right.
Because if that's really terrible and the writing is just not anything like there from, and I know you haven't seen the Netflix show, because even at 14, I don't know how I feel about you watching that yet. But if the writing is nowhere near there, I'm gonna hope that we don't keep doing stuff with him. But I also don't know how it could be any worse than She-Hulk, so...
Well...
Yeah.
It's not gonna be better than... It's not gonna be worse than She-Hulk. I don't know, I mean... Do you think Secret Invasion was worse than She-Hulk?
It was more boring. So, like... Kinda?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of take your pick, Like, insufferable, and... Secret Invasion lost me from the first scene, though, and She-Hulk, it took a little longer than that to completely lose me. So I guess there's that. I also have to put in the caveat that I only watched those shows talking over them. So obviously I would have a somewhat different experience if I was
somewhat
not trying to make content at the same time.
Yeah.
But I always have to do that disclaimer because I realized that I wasn't giving it a full-on fair shake, of course. But, if it intrigued me enough while I was looking at it on screen, I would go back and look at it on its own. And Echo kind of did. I mean, I haven't gone back and actually watched that, but I did the pilot or the first couple episodes, I can't remember, on stream, and liked it a lot more than I expected to. And people overall weren't happy with it and said that it was kind of the same, dull, whatever kind of nonsense they've been putting out. But I thought it had an okay first episode. So, like, that I would give another shot. But anyway, Alex Barron, I've never seen Kat more unhappy than during the Secret Invasion stream. Oh, it was torture. And I couldn't do anything with it. Like, it was hard to make it fun for the stream.
For the audience, yeah.
Yeah. You feel like you're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
And I only did that because we hit a super chat goal. I wasn't going to do that.
You guys asked for it.
Yeah. But
oh boy,
we got through it. So I guess She-Hulk's better just because we had more fun with the stream. We at least got to the last episode and were able to go, oh my god, they did what now? We got to the end of the Secret Invasion.
Didn't do that.
We got to the end of the Secret Invasion stream and it was... And then there was that one, 3-minute Super Scroll thing where I was like, what? That's weird. And then, just back to sleeping again.
Wasn't Secret Invasion the one with the weird robot?
The weird robot?
Or, the weird, Or was that Super Scroll that, had all the different powers?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. They did Super Scroll in that. Okay. Leo, the leaked trailer for Born Again looked pretty good. I've heard that. I did not see it leaked. So when it finally comes out, obviously, we'll talk about it on this show. Okay, what else do folks want to talk about?
We
spent some time on that because it was a heftier super chat, and because I had thoughts.
We have a $5 super chat from Dan Schneider.
Thanks, man.
He says, I think you should watch HBO's Oz. It's a prison show from the 90s. I think you would get a lot out of it.
Like nightmares.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a thing I ever thought about actually watching, but I always heard really good things about it. Some of those HBO dramas from the late 90s, early 2000s are things I should go back and catch up on. I would definitely give the pilot of that a shot. And it's not like I've never, watched prison stuff. Like, I actually saw the whole first season of Orange is the New Black. Believe it or not.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did look at that. Well, I was curious because it was Kate Mulgrew doing a Russian accent again, and she had the worst Russian accent that anybody's ever had with Dark Claw not Dark Claw, sorry, that's also a Batman thing, but with a Red Claw in Batman the Animated Series. But yeah,
wait,
she's
in that? She's doing a Russian accent?
Yes, playing the prison cook.
Is she better?
Yeah, she's actually quite good in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not my thing. I have a lot of. I certainly had, some writing issues with that show, but I was curious enough to watch the whole first season. I don't know, and then I like Shawshank Redemption, and there's some prison stuff I like, but I was just gonna say I need to go back and finally sit through, The Sopranos, which I've seen the pilot for, but never watched any more of.
Oh yeah.
And also 6 Feet Under was a show I was always curious about. I think actually I watched the first episode of that too, but never got back to it. But I was curious about that when I worked at a mortuary for a couple of years, and all of the funeral directors that worked there were fans of that show.
Yeah.
And I just never got around to watching any more of it.
$2 super chat from Bob the Hun. Father and son for MTV Spider-Man, please.
That's not a bad idea.
How many episodes is that? 12?
It's 12. It's 12 or 13. Austin and I have threatened a watch party on that show for a long time, so I don't know that we would watch it and then review it.
I mean,
we'd probably do a reaction stream.
I mean, it looks like it was made on a PSP, but sure,
it does. Yeah. So if we do that, we'll try to have Jason there for it.
Sure.
And maybe we would split it in 2 or 3 shows.
I've seen a couple episodes.
I've also been talking about doing one for the Fox Silver Surfer show. The reason we haven't been doing as many reaction streams like that lately, mini marathons, is because we've taken the Superhero Rewind commentary project to weekly, and so I don't have that extra night with Austin anymore.
Yeah, why is that, Dad?
Yeah, no, that's why. And I miss doing them as often, but not to the point where I want to stop doing that show weekly, because I feel really good about how many of those we're getting out, and that needs to be the flagship streaming show for the channel.
Yeah.
Because the point is supposed to be to do all of them, and if we're only doing like 20 or 30 a year, that ends up being a very silly goal. Like we need to be doing as close to 52 as we can get. Yeah. So that's what we're doing, and so we'll try to do more of those when we can sneak them in. By the way, quick plug for what Austin and I are doing tomorrow night. I haven't announced this yet, but we've got a request on a really obscure, I haven't looked at it yet, but a really obscure Canadian sketch comedy show from the mid-'80s that I only was able to find a couple of episodes of on YouTube. So we're just going to watch 2 episodes of that and talk about what we watched. That's a thing called William Floyd, which I'd never heard of before, but apparently Robin Williams was a big fan of it.
Oh.
And that was requested, but we wanted to do something else tomorrow night because I don't think that'll take a real long time to talk about. Again, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. But, so we decided to go ahead and do a comic review, and I didn't have time to read anything extra this week besides what I'm already working on for the commentary project on Friday. But since I've been rereading Dark Knight Returns for that, Austin and I decided that we would just go ahead and review the book the night before we do the movie. So we are, in fact, going to do a discussion tomorrow night on Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, which I've never done on the channel. And then on Friday night, we're going to do the movie. And it's going to be a little bit of a whirlwind for me because I have not done my watch of the movie yet for the show, and I don't want to get the two things conflated in my brain. So I'm just going to focus on the comic tomorrow. And then I'm going to watch the movie and hope to be able to do enough background to make the show at least passable Friday night. But that's my plan right now. So anyway, just quick plug for what we're doing for the next couple days. We're just going to do Dark Knight Return stuff Thursday and Friday.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, what else do folks want to talk about?
$2 super chat from Goofster123.
Thanks so much, man. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to wait until after the super chat is read.
Sorry about that. Thoughts on Orville Season 4 getting confirmed?
Okay, I'm going to do it again. Okay, was it full-on actually confirmed? Because I've been seeing conflicting things about this. Jason's gonna look right now and see if we can confirm the confirmation on this. I saw something on that, and it looked real flimsy. There was this, like really poorly rendered image that was like, Season 4 is confirmed, and I can't remember if it was brought up at Comic-Con or some other convention or something. But I didn't think that was a surefire deal yet.
Yeah, I'm seeing that, like, Scott Grimes said at the Las Vegas convention that Season 4 is set to begin pre-production at some point early in 2025.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds like a real confirmation.
But it says that McFarlane hasn't made an official announcement on any of his direct social media.
Okay, so we can't take that for sure until McFarlane says something.
Right.
But that is kind of promising. I'm not sure why he would say that.
Mm-hmm. And then the Orville official fan podcast who works with Seth said that Season 4 is
something is coming.
Happening.
Okay. Well, and McFarlane has been real coy about it when people have asked him. And I think part of that is because he wanted all eyes on his Ted prequel, which was apparently really good. I didn't see those movies, so I didn't have any dog in that. I wasn't really interested. But I think wanted to have more of the focus on that current project he was putting out, but that was just a mini-series thing, not a regular series. And when people would ask him about it, he would say, "Well, it's not officially canceled." And he never even went as far as to say we're definitely making more, but just it's not done. He basically was saying expect there to be something eventually. It always seemed like. I have lots of questions about what that show looks like moving forward, and I gotta tiptoe around because Jason hasn't finished it yet. He hasn't even gotten through 2, so we gotta get back to that show so you can see 3 because it's wonderful. But my big questions with that would be: A, is McFarlane gonna actually stay in the starring role, or is he gonna write himself out somehow? Because he seemed really burnt out by the end. And there was a lot of talk that part of the reason that they didn't immediately go into a 4 is that he just didn't really feel like it. So it might be that he's gotten his space legs back under him and he really wants to do it again. Or it might be that he wants the show to continue and he wants to be involved, but he doesn't really want to regularly act in it anymore. So I could see him killing off his character. I could see him doing like the best of both worlds thing the other way, where he finds a cool way to kill himself off.
Yeah.
Or I could see him just writing himself out of the show. The second question is, how much of that cast comes back? Because everybody's out of contract.
Right.
And a lot of them went on to different things. Like, do you even get Adrian Palacki back? I don't know what she's doing right now because she's always in something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big question.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is, it better be damn good because it got a really great last episode.
Mm-hmm. And
it got the sort of last episode that says, sure, we could make more of this, but it's just really brilliantly bookended. And I need that show to stay that good or to be different enough that it doesn't even draw as much direct comparison. Like, if they wanted to make sort of like an Orville The Next Generation at this point, I would be fine with that. Like, I don't know if they'd want to do a big time jump, but if they wanted to maybe, like, call the show something else, set it on a different ship, have a somewhat different crew. Like, I would be really okay with a different Orville show at this point set in the same universe. Which sounds weird because it's a relatively recent thing. It feels weird that we would already jump to another thing. But it got 3 really solid seasons. I don't actually need more of that show. But I'm more than open to more of it. I know there's a lot of fans that are like, oh, boo, it ended prematurely. They handled the end of that so well that it feels like a complete show. And I'm fine with no more of it happening. You know what I'm not fine with though? No merchandising hardly whatsoever. I cannot deal with a world where that show does not have action figures.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy. I need stuff from that show. It's so annoying that I can't get that. It's like the only thing that it and New Trek have in common. There's like no merchandising.
Well, I mean, that's fine with New Trek.
Okay, nobody in the comments cares about this. They're just making up Blade 4 titles. So
Okay.
Anyway, let's move on. You know what? I'm not even going to dignify it by reading them. Stay on topic. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
We got a $5 super chat from Dan Schneider.
You're doing it!
Yes.
You're
Yes, I
ignoring
am.
me on the show you're on!
No, I'm also talking to you.
Hang on, I'm going to get DJ on the horn and see if I can
No,
grovel and beg for
here's
him
the
to
problem.
take the show back.
No, but here's the problem. I don't have anything to say about that because I haven't finished the show.
Yeah, well, you still be polite and pay attention.
Yeah, I am. I know what you said. You said Adrian Palacki is probably not going to be in it.
I said that like 4 minutes ago.
Okay.
That's not exactly what I said. Okay, great. They should go the movie route. Oh, that's a good call.
Yeah, they should.
See, one of the reasons I'm skeptical with that whole thing, I bet something is happening, but like season 4 has been confirmed. I don't think whatever they make is going to be a season 4. I think it's either going to be a new show with a different title, or like he says, it's going to be some kind of movie project. Yeah, that would be great, by the way, if they did that. Jason's a month into hosting and already the wheels have gone to hell. I'm just kidding. Jason's really good at multitasking.
Thanks.
He vaguely remembered that thing I said about Adrian Palacki.
Yeah. We have a $5 super chat from Dan Schneider.
Yeah.
He says I put 3 super chats with $5. I put 3 $5 super chats in, and does this third super chat count enough to be a request for the pilot of Oz? You said super chats are an okay way to do requests.
Yeah, I mean, people have been doing that more and more lately. At one point I said I don't know if I want to make that a regular thing, but I mean, the way we do it on Patreon is $15 tier, for you stay on for 1 month, and your request gets on the list, and we do it whenever we get to it. So I mean, like, it's the same dollar amount. Sure, I'll accept that. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go ahead and put that on there. That's fine. If anybody ever wants to leave a $15 super chat for a request, just know that if that happens very much, everybody's going to have to wait longer because we have a backlog. So just as long as people understand that, I am all right with it. So Dan, because I know not everybody likes to use Patreon. Okay, so Oz Pilot. So it is officially on the list. You saw me do it, so we'll definitely get to it. But it's going to be a few months because, like I said, we've got a big backlog still. Boy, do we. I might want to try to find the time to double up on a few of these so that we can catch up. But and I mean, we're not horribly behind because we haven't been doing them. We've just been getting a lot, and you know, you take a vacation here and there, and then you don't do it that week. Anyway, thank you for the request. I have derailed my own show. Go ahead, sir.
Well, let's.
Oh, we're caught up with the super chats. Okay. Well, we got about 5 minutes left on the show if we stop at 2 hours. So I'm going to say last call for super chats. If there's anything else that folks want to make sure we talk about, but we'll go to Patreon and then pre-written if we have enough time to do that.
Yes. Patreon question.
I just saw a picture of Bubbles for some reason.
Yeah, well, I was at like the pictures of on your messenger, and then Bubbles just showed up.
Okay, great. Says, oh no, Cap's not ready. About what? I'm not sure what he's talking about. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well,
I'm not ready.
You're not ready for Oz?
Oh, maybe that's what
I don't know.
Yeah. Is there like, is that show gonna mess me up?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have massive nightmares about prison. I don't know why.
Well, apparently you'll get a lot out of it.
I don't know why I let you guys know as much about me as I do. I'm way too much of an open book.
Invisipig.
Yeah.
Asks to Jason.
This is on Patreon.
And
good. I can just lean back and take a nap.
You could probably do this too, but
okay.
I don't know. If you could make, you might have done this already.
Okay.
If you could make a superhero film, what superhero would you do, and what story would you adapt?
Yeah, this is a question I've answered before. Go ahead.
I have thought a bit about this, but I think the first thing that comes to my mind is a Cassandra Cain, Stephanie Brown movie.
Oh, interesting. A team-up thing.
And against, like, I don't know, Lady Shiva or something.
Okay, but you know what's hilarious to me? Mm-hmm. 2 of those characters made your top 50, but one of them did not.
She almost did. Well, actually, no, she didn't, because I had never heard of her until a month later.
Oh.
And now I'm, like, getting into, like, Stephanie Brown. And
and you should read her monthly.
Yeah, and I'm...
Which comes out after Cassandra Cain's
And
book.
I'm thinking about reading 90s Robin.
Yeah. And
introduces Stephanie
Brown.
Brown.
Read 90s Nightwing, too.
Okay.
And, like, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff kind of starts with that. But, yeah, you would love... I think Chuck Dixon wrote that book, too. I could be mistaken, but you would love a lot of that Dixon stuff.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think...
Read Nightwing, read Birds of Prey.
Yeah, I do want to read Birds of Prey.
Yeah. That's a little later, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think, I do think a team-up movie... Because I've been reading through that arc in Batgirl where it's, the first appearance of Spoiler in that run.
Yeah.
And they have a whole arc where they're just doing a team up together, and they work like really well together. And so I think that as a team up movie would be cool, and maybe be an animated movie. I don't
know. I guess I'll answer it real quick. The first thing that comes to mind for me, just because I'm a not so closeted zombie fan, is I would love to do a like pretty close to direct adaptation of Marvel Zombies, and that's not what we're gonna get with that cartoon show, with that animated show. So like, yeah. And then something closer to IDW Ninja Turtles. Particularly, like if you did one story, if you did like one movie based on IDW Ninja Turtles, obviously they're gonna do Last Ronin. But if you actually did that continuity, because Last Ronin is its own thing, connected in Mirage. But I would love to do an adaptation of the Metalhead stuff in IDW.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
All right. We have one more super chat for right now.
I see it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we got a $5 super chat from Danny Nixon.
Danny Nixon.
Yeah.
Who we haven't heard from him in a really long time.
Yeah.
It's good to see him, man.
Yeah. And it is his first super on a live stream.
Oh yeah, so we got to celebrate that apparently.
Yeah. And he says, just did a reread of Dark Knight Returns while I've been on a Miller kick. I love it more after each read. P.S. Congrats on the growing family, catching up on old news.
Yeah, thanks, man. So I have this weird relationship with Dark Knight Returns where every time I read it, I love it. And then I never remember hardly anything about it. Like, it never sticks with me, and I can't explain why. I'm reading it right now. I'm, like, halfway through, and I can't wait to find out what happens. I don't know why I have that with this book. But every time... And there's always those, like, little morsels that I... You know what I mean? Like, I can... Like I can quote the mutants, you don't shiv. Like, I always remember that. Like, specific story points. I never remember what we do with Two-Face in that. I'm also, every single time, surprised that Alfred is still alive. Every time. You turn the page, like a 90-year-old Alfred standing in the shadows on a staircase. I'm like, wow, Alfred's still alive? And I'm like, I've read this book like 6 times. I always forget about that. No, it's crazy.
I might read that.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely should. Well, I really want to show you the movie. But I wasn't going to show it to you until you've read the book, because you'd appreciate it a lot more, as an adaptation. It would be kind of just as seminal and important in all that as Dark Knight Returns is. And legitimately, it's worth the praise it gets. It would be very strange if you watched the movie first, even though it's a pretty faithful adaptation. Okay. It's just, that's a comic book, and it's like the most influential comic book there is. Like, you should read it first.
Yeah.
Cinematographic, he has aged phenomenally. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Is that everything?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do a couple pre-written questions.
Let's do one real quick if you've got a good one, yeah.
Sure, I've got one.
And then we'll finish up with our final segment here.
Yeah, I've got one. So,
you got one?
Yeah, I mean, besides a person that I wrote down for some reason saying Across the Spider-Verse sucks, but I had to get it off my chest. But
you're not even gonna say who said it.
Yeah. Sorry that you feel that way, the man of movies. Okay. Cinematographic asks, Cap and Jason,
hello.
Have you ever walked into a movie not knowing what it is and walked out of it thinking, okay, why didn't they lead with that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not immediately coming up with a great example.
Where it's like,
it doesn't establish tone well enough. And then you have to sit with it for a while before you realize, oh no, like I am glad I came to this.
I'll say I was kind of having that with Rebel Without a Cause, honestly.
Were you really?
Just because I was not expecting at all the kind of, like, dramatic tone of that movie, where it is, like, very, like, character-driven, I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting a theme kind of more similar to, like, a Grease or something.
Sure.
But then it is not that.
And sometimes it's not a bad thing either. You know, like in general, you want a story to establish its tone and let you know what you're getting into.
No.
And then sometimes it's nice to be surprised.
And see, it does it.
Regardless, you want to hook the audience, and it sounds like that movie does a fine job doing that.
It does establish the tone of it in the first in the first few minutes.
It sounds like Connor does know that movie.
But the just explaining the synopsis and like reading the synopsis, it does not feel like that kind of movie. Like you have to actually watch it, I feel like. But
I'd have to give it some thought to come up with some good examples. Nothing's jumping to me, but I mean, I definitely have that experience with stuff. Let's go ahead and do our final segment of the
oh my gosh, I completely forgot about this.
Yes, we got to do our final segment tonight. We're gonna do a new segment. So we're ending with different segments, and I'm not gonna make up a brand new one every time. We'll go back to some that we've done before. Like we'll bring rants back. We'll do different things we've done before. But I want to do a new segment called, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Where is it? Oh, I can't find it. It's not coming up.
Wait, it's there.
I had a GIF and I just can't make it work.
No, you're just doing everything but that.
I'm doing everything but that. Oh yeah, here it is. We're gonna do Alfred Let's Go Shopping. Yes, Alfred Let's Go Shopping. That's the name of the segment. Sorry, I set that up really, really poorly. So today we're going to go through some local marketplace tailored just for me. And once again, wearing my life too much on my sleeves here probably, because you'll see what gets curated based on things I've looked for on Facebook Marketplace before.
Oh.
And we're going to go through this and see if any cool geeky items come up that I would be tempted to buy. And or Jason, if any hilariously terrible mistakes are made in the titles of some of these, because that always cracks me up when that happens. I saw one recently. I haven't looked at this in a little while, but I saw one recently where it was Power Rangers toys, and the title of it was Mighty Morphine Power Rangers.
Morphine.
Yeah.
I mean, like morphine, like. With the E at the end?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's Mighty Morphine. Yeah, okay. Exactly. Okay. So let's see what we got here. Skitsy warmers.
That's
what
not...
what does that mean? Skitsy warmers slightly used. It's an Iron Man helmet. I don't know what that means.
Oh, they're
lamps? Oh no.
Kind of.
Well, this looks like shoes. That's lemonade. It's like they're just selling you everything. Okay. Somebody just has a catch-all ad for everything in their house, apparently. So their whole online yard sale here. Let me open this up a little bit further. We'll do this for about 5 minutes, and then we'll finish the show up. Let's see what else we see here, Jason. Are you tempted by Skitsy warmers?
They're like burners. They're like...
Oh, okay. There's some Pokemon plush. Some Pokemon stuff will pop up because I was looking for Pokemon
it's a
cards.
Chimchar, a Vaporeon, and a... Oh, gosh. Why am I... Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Gengar.
Gengar.
Yeah,
okay.
We need to finally do...
Our
Pokemon stream, because I really want to do the 3-parter with Gengar in it.
Wolverine 73...
Okay.
Bishop X-Men 97. These were ridiculously expensive. Like, that actually looks like a bigger figure than the others I've seen. Is that that almost looks like a Marvel Legends or something.
It is.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, then, like, that price tag makes sense. But they were selling the little, like, 4.5-inch figures for $20 a piece, and it was preposterous. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the Walmart and Target price. Just ridiculous.
We got some video games. We got
Dirty NES game lot. That's good. Scooby-Doo chess set. I didn't know they made that, but like, of course they did.
Some Transformers.
There's some old Transformers.
Godzilla. Superhero times.
This looks
Superhero
different.
times.
Superhero times. This looks different on desktop than it does on your phone. So what I might do is pick a category and then open it up with see all. But yeah, what's superhero times? Yeah, it looks like just decor.
Wall
Although
art.
I can't tell if is that wall art? Is that actually an oversized comic? Yeah.
No.
It's like it's superhero times.
Times.
I see. Oh yeah, because that was in the decor section. I'm stupid. Toys and games.
There's a Pokemon card lot.
Let's see what we got here. Yeah, we're browsing on stream.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles.
Lego Jurassic World. Okay, this thing keeps coming up, and it's kind of neat, but it's a little pricey for what it is. So this is a really neat... So I love the stalactites, Jason. Are you looking at this?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I've been tempted by this, but like I said, it's a little high. This is custom made locally, 3D printed.
That's cool.
So this is not licensed. This is a guy making this out of his house. And it's neat. It's huge. It's also nice that he put it on his table for scale. Like, you can see how big this is. Yeah. It would look great in the bunker. Mm-hmm. And again, I love the Batcave motif. Also, check out the bat on the bottom. He went with the symbol that's on the chest in 89.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
There's a BVS figure.
Yeah. A lot of legs of figures. Wait, wow, Power Rangers Micro Machines.
Oh,
did you know? So this is a pet peeve of mine. Make the first picture in your ad the front of the box.
Please.
Did you know about this? I've never seen this.
I didn't.
I really expected it to just be Zords. It's weird they had Micro Machines Ranger characters, because usually Micro Machines were vehicles.
Right.
That's weird. Okay. I mean, I'm not super tempted by that, but that price seems about right for Micro Machines. Should we go into another category?
Okay, but you found movable dinosaurs. Dad,
movable dinosaurs.
Movable dinosaurs.
Yeah, you
That's
can
the
move
best
them.
kind of dude. And Dinosaur Brown. Dinosaur Brown.
Is that related to Encyclopedia Brown? Encyclopedia Dinosaur Brown?
No. That's that's Blue's second cousin.
Oh, sure. Okay. That's great.
Paw Patrol steering wheel.
Video games and consoles. Just want to see if comics or anything come up.
Oh gosh, let's get Starlink.
Let's look at antiques and collectibles. Yeah. As soon as Starlink came on the scene, I went, that's not going to last.
No, and it didn't.
It was on clearance about 3 weeks later.
Yeah, it was.
Just seeing if any comics or other kind of superhero stuff come up here. Or just anything else that looks good. I have all of these. I have a full set of the 89 cards. And I have a full set of the 66 cards, too. I forgot about that. I found those the other day, and I was like, oh, that's right. I forgot I got my hands on that. This TV is really cool.
That's cool.
And I get why that's $249. So I love Zenith stuff.
Yes.
Zenith went out of business in, I think, the early 90s. But look at this. So I have a Zenith cabinet that has a phonograph in it. And unfortunately, the speaker stopped working. But I loved them. And this would be cool to have.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I would not personally pay that much, but that's what. Yeah, because it's a tube.
Right, but like,
I've thought about doing a whole stream where we just do this. I did it once with comics, which was fun. But anyway, well, folks, thanks a lot for watching tonight's edition.
We did get one more super chat.
Oh well, let's go ahead and answer that real quick, and then we will finish out the show.
It's just Blade, but a 4 in the...
Yeah, he also wants to see that happen.
Yeah.
Just don't do that. Don't put the 4 in the middle of it. For the love of God.
Yeah. I think some of these Blade 4 titles are actually really good, though.
Well, guys, appreciate you watching this week's edition of The Captain Logan Show. We'll be back next Wednesday night at 7 Central for another one. The next couple nights, like I said, Austin and I are going to be doing stuff for Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. We're going to review the book tomorrow night late. and probably around 10 Central or even a little bit after, since we have a request right before that. And then Friday night, we're going to do, and this should be 9 o'clock Central, I'll let you know if that time changes. We'll be doing the 2-part movie version as a Superhero Rewind commentary. And if you want to vote in the poll for the next Rewind commentary, you can become a $10 patron at patreon.com/geekvolution and become a Superhero Rewind producer. Jason, the 4 movies for the poll next time are recent films that still count for Superhero Rewind. So movies between 2020 and 2022.
2020 and 2022.
And we had a hard time thinking of stuff we actually wanted to watch because most of the movies from that period are really bad.
Okay.
But Eternals is on that list.
Okay.
Austin put that there. I don't know if I can remember all 4 of them. I put Man of Tomorrow on that list.
Amazing.
And I included Multiverse of Madness.
Which is, and guys, don't get mad at me, which is my favorite MCU film.
A lot of people don't like it, but I also liked it.
I know.
And then I can't remember the other thing that Austin put in there. Okay, so this is not a good movie, but he also included New Mutants. That was the other one.
Oh, no.
So those are the 4. So you can vote for that if you're a Patreon producer. And in the meantime,
vote for Multiverse of Madness.
We will see you again real soon. I was Captain Logan. This was
Jason.
Jason, my son and chat moderator. And Jason, thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
I know I was making fun of you earlier, but you always do a great job. And I'm not just saying that. All right, bye, everybody.